Thanks for joining me today at Learnwake. My name is Brandon Judd, and today I'm going to be analyzing a video that was submitted by Felipe here. He has a tantrum that he'd like to improve, and in his submission, uh, it says, I can't clear the wakes, believe I need more vertical pop, not squared to the wake. And all those things are true, but I'm going to explain a little bit of why this is happening and some things you can do to fix it. So for others of you out there who are also struggling with your tantrum, you're probably going to be struggling with one of the two issues that Felipe is having a hard time with here. Um, Going wake to wake is tough with this trick, and I'll just start there. But then also squaring up to the wake is another difficulty, and we'll talk about that in a second. So the first things first is when you come in for a tantrum, one thing to know is that when you switch edges here to square up at the wake, you actually lose momentum. So if you think about it this way, let's try and rate the momentum, like your lateral momentum across the wakes. Let's rate that momentum on a scale of 1 to 10. And let's say that you need, at least a 6 to go wake to wake. If you gave it a 10 on a normal edge, you'd go way out into the flats. And a 6 is wake to wake. Like a 4, you'd be cut short here and be landing in between the wakes. So if you need, at least a 6, and you're going to lose a momentum of at least, 2 to 3 by switching edges here. You have to actually start out with like a 9 or 10 just at the beginning. Then when you switch edges and you lose 2 or 3 here, then you still have enough momentum to make it wake to wake, and you're left with 6 or 7 for a nice big lofty tantrum. But what happens for most people is most people start out with their normal 6 that it takes to get wake to wake, and then when they switch edges, they end up at like a 4 because they lost a momentum of -2 or so here, if that makes sense. So I know that's a whole bunch of numbers that don't always make sense, but let's take a look at what this actually looks like, and kind of scroll through this tantrum here. So right now it's a nice solid edge, um, and he holds on to that edge for a little too long and doesn't quite switch edges right. Um, and then this isn't bad. He's going just barely short of wake to wake. But again, it's not terrible. He still rides away. But if you look at this, he could definitely come in a little more aggressive right here, and then wait to switch edges and switch edges more aggressively right here. And I'll show you kind of what that looks like here. So in Billy Park's Tripping a Tantrum, this video here, Tripping a Tantrum, Billy Park shows us a really good example of edging in real aggressively. So if you look at his aggressive edge in to the tantrum, you'll see he edges pretty hard at the beginning, a lot harder than he normally would here for just a normal wake jump. So if we compare this over here to the approach that Felipe has, you'll see it's just a little mellower. He's not really leaning as hard and getting as aggressive. So again, it's very subtle because he still was able to land this. He just cased the wake a little bit. So just a little harder on your approach. Get a little bit more momentum going across the wakes. And then the next thing is when you start switching edges here. So look at right about here is when you go flat. And then you keep 2 hands on the handle and you stay flat for a little longer than you need to. Then we're going to go back over to Billy's and we'll look at when he switches edges. He tries to save that until right about here. And it's really aggressive. Like he's on edge and then he switches edges really quickly. Kind of at the bottom of the wake. So he goes flat right about here. But since he has so much momentum, and he switches edges even more aggressively, you'll see that he gets one-handed right away. I mean, he's kind of taking his hand off the handle right here, and this is right when he goes flat. So right when he goes flat and switches edges, his hand is already off the handle. If we look at yours here for a second, um, you go flat right here, which is a little earlier than Billy's. Billy was more, right here, but that's not super different. But the biggest difference is you still have two hands on the handle and you stay there. Two hands, two hands, two hands, all the way until right about there. So this is about the frame that you take your second hand off the handle, and you'll notice that your shoulders are still kind of facing the wake, facing the boat a little bit. So if we go back to Billy's and we look at what happens to his shoulders when he's taking off, they're completely in line with the rope, and his shoulders are facing the shore. And that's really important when you're tripping this. It won't feel like you get kind of suctioned and stuck to the wake, which helps with your lateral travel, but it also kicks you straight up and sends the flip into a nice lofty pitch at the beginning. Whereas yours here, when you take off the wake, you go back before you go up. Your center mass here starts to go backwards instead of upwards. And then your lower body flips around you in less of a controlled manner. So you won't be able to progress it to tantrum to blind and other tricks and grabbing your tantrum. It'll be really hard. And that's also why you land kind of facing the boat, with your chest facing the boat and the nose of the board pointed so far um, out towards shore. Because if we flip back here to Billy's and we look at what it looks like when he lands, you'll notice that his boots are pretty much in line. I don't really see the nose of the board pointed out towards shore. It's more pointed down the boat's path when he lands. So it makes it much easier to control, much easier to land when you're able to control it like that. So he's able to go up and then flip at the peak of his jump and then land very controlled. So that's the two main issues I'm seeing with yours. Is one is you're not edging in aggressive enough, and then you're switching edges slow and late. So slow meaning you could save it for later, and then you're not fully switching edges because your hand is still on the handle here. So I drop the hand as soon as you go flat, and I do that quicker, closer to the wake, so that right here, your hand is already off the handle, your shoulders are in line with the rope, and you're able to stand up nice and tall. And that's going to give you a lot better tripping momentum. To fix that issue on the wake, the best thing to do is to watch this video, Tripping a Tantrum. It's going to take you, and you've probably seen it before, but these drills, these backside reentry drills, are key because it really feels like this at the wake. And the better you get at these, the higher you can pop these backside reentries, the better and loftier your tantrum will be. It really feels like you edge in two-handed um, on your approach with some good aggression and momentum, and then you just stand tall and do one of these up into a backflip. Um, so I'd work on these guys and watch this video again just to kind of refresh yourself. If you're looking for other resources as well, we recently added this tantrum video with Brandon Lee here, and you can see it walks you through a lot of issues with the tantrum and also a lot of things that he's thinking about to get it successful. Some good body positioning techniques and so on. So this is another great video that we recently rolled out. So I'd take a peek at that one. It's just called Tantrum, and then also Tripping a Tantrum with Billy Park, the classic one we've had on here. So hopefully that helps. Thanks for submitting and uploading the video, and we appreciate that. And good luck.